Welcome back to Steven. I'm your host, Steven, and if I say your name, please raise your hand. And today, from a grandma falling for a romance scam to a scam involving a house arrest ankle monitor, we've got some crazy scam stories, all starting with a post titled, After Trustpilot Review, Welcome to My Nightmare. I have been living a nightmare for a year and a half. About a year and a half ago, I traveled from the US to Turkey to get a hair transplant. There are so many clinics over there, and somehow I managed to pick the absolute worst one. I'll be honest, I'm a bit hesitant to even write this because I don't want people to think I'm exaggerating or making things up, but I know I'm not the only one who went through this, and I'm hoping others who had a similar experience might see this and confirm it. I'll skip the boring parts, flights, hotel, operation day, post-op months, all of that. Short version, the transplant turned out terrible. For the last 6 months, I kept contacting the clinic trying to understand what went wrong and whether anything could be done to fix or compensate for it. I was constantly brushed off and avoided. So I finally left a review on Google Maps. That's when the real nightmare started. At first, the clinic called and politely asked me to remove my review. I refused. The next day, I started getting WhatsApp calls and messages from dozens of different numbers, insulting and harassing me. The day after that, the clinic owner personally called me, apologized, and again asked me to delete the review. I still refused. That same evening, he messaged me and said, "If you don't delete it, say bye-bye to your Instagram." I didn't delete it. 2 days later, my Instagram account was gone. Later, I learned they do this by sending thousands of bot followers and mass reporting accounts until they get taken down. At that point, I checked my Google review again. Google had removed my review instead. Apparently, this company fights negative reviews both legally and illegally, which probably explains why they have hundreds of glowing reviews and almost no negative ones. After that, I decided to leave a review on Trustpilot. That's when I realized how bad this really is. There are many people describing the same pattern: pressure to delete reviews, harassment, intimidation. In one case, they allegedly ruined a customer's hair and beard, then after the person left a negative review, they got his Instagram taken down and even created a website using his full name, accusing him of defaming the company and threatening legal action. What made this even more disturbing is what happened later. The company then purchased a 1-year Trustpilot premium plan, and somehow, many negative reviews started disappearing from their Trustpilot page. Because of that, I honestly don't trust Trustpilot anymore either. I genuinely don't know what to do anymore. We lost our money, we lost our health, and while trying to stand up for ourselves, we've been mentally exhausted for over a year now. The clinic is called Hair of Istanbul. There's only one with that name. The owner acts like some kind of celebrity, pushing ridiculous PR stories on international sites about luxury cars and motivating young people while completely ignoring real patients whose lives were messed up. So yeah, that's where I'm at. If anyone has advice, legal insight, or went through something similar, I'd really appreciate hearing from you. I feel like this is a really interesting and tricky scenario because OP's from a different place, so that already adds to the difficulty in trying to actually have something done here, legally speaking. But I definitely understand OP not wanting to roll over and allow this company to parade around like they're this supposed 5-star company that they're managing to cultivate still. Although I'm assuming the rates are better than in the States, they're probably still spending a good chunk of money there, and OP described in at least one other person's case that they totally botched their hair and beard. It's not crazy to want some small level of retribution, right? A user named Excalibur2 left a comment on the post saying, "Best thing you could have done is to just leave the reviews and then block and ignore them. Don't talk to the owner, don't respond to any of the texts." Also, a very careful and deep research is warranted if you're contemplating any sort of surgical or medical procedure overseas. When I say research, I don't mean looking up the clinic's Google review rating. I do that when I'm thinking of where to have my dinner. Anything to do with my body, I look very closely at the doctor in question. And speaking of warranted, if you're enjoying these crazy scam stories, something that could be warranted is hitting those like and subscribe buttons down below. That said, our next story is friend receiving assassination threats from 2 separate numbers. A friend of mine first received lengthy messages claiming that the person had been paid to assassinate her by a coworker. The person demands thousands of dollars from her in return for her safety and a tape of evidence against the person that originally requested the assassination. First 5 slides, apparently having said the following: "I want you to read this message carefully and keep the secret with you till further notice. You have no needs or knowing who I am, where I'm from, till I make out a space for us to see. I have been paid $15,000 in advance to terminate you with some reason listed to me by my employer. It's one I believe you call a friend. I have followed you closely for 1 week, 3 days now, and have seen that you are innocent of accusations. Do not contact the police or FBI or try to send a copy of this to them, because if you do, I will know and might be pushed to do what I've been paid to do. Besides, this is the first time I turned out to be a betrayer in my job. Now listen, I will arrange for us to see face to face, but before that, I need the amount of $5,000 and you will have nothing to be afraid of. I will be coming to see you in your office or home. Determine where you wish we meet. Do not set any cameras to cover us or set up any tape to record our conversations. My employer is in my control. Now, you will need to pay $1,000 to the account I'll provide for you before we will set our first meeting. After you have made the first advance payment to the account, I will give you the tape that contains his request for me to terminate you, which will be enough evidence for you to take her to the court. If wished to, then the balance we be paid later. I am pleased to inform you that we've been paid to assassinate you by one of your so-called coworkers. I want you to listen very carefully about your safety and do not, I repeat, do not try doing something funny. Other words, trying to inform any security agent, because this is our business and we know how to do it best. We have our network all over the world. In order to not endanger your life, the more you're advised to cooperate with us to know if we can change our initial plan to assassinate you. Once you are in receipt of this message, I would like you to get back to us immediately, as delay is dangerous. I will continue to wait to hear from you on this matter in the next 24 hours. And that is if you appreciate and love your existence. Please do not in any way communicate this or discuss this with anybody, because you wouldn't know who you're talking with. Our watchdogs are on you. Do not make any mistakes. God be with you. So after blocking the first number, she received texts from another number saying that 24 hours was almost up and her life was now in danger, along with pictures of guns. The message said, "I am still waiting to hear from you in the next 24 hours. Hello. I haven't heard from you yet on this issue. It's almost 24 hours. I guess you don't even like your existence. I have been trying to be nice to you, but you want to push me to do what I was paid for. Okay, I won't say more than this." End of message. Her parents called the police, who essentially told her that they didn't know what was happening, couldn't help, and suggested just blocking them. She's young and she's very scared. Her parents are shaken up as well. The grammar is horrible and the situation doesn't even make sense, as she's unemployed. The threats and storyline are also incredibly cartoonish. Has anyone else seen anything like this before? Is this a common scam? Thanks in advance. So I'm now jumping in here to say, I've definitely heard of my fair share of scams. Admittedly, I haven't covered scams too much at all on this channel. I don't exactly know if this is a very common one, but I don't feel like it is, because as bad as a scammer popping up and saying, "Oops, you accidentally paid $500 for Norton Security, please contact our number and we'll help you solve it by giving us gift cards," actually threatening somebody with like ending them, assassination, that's a little bit different, and I feel like it's a lot more actionable, if at all there's any way to figure out where exactly it came from. In the end, it doesn't truly shock me that they would try a scam like that. Honestly, just hearing that, it is kind of a scary thing to hear, even though you hear it and you know that this is some person thousands of miles away LARPing to try to make you scared. A user named GoodTube left a comment saying, "Come on, man. You think your friend is cool enough to have someone pay $15,000 to end him?" A user named Gold Mammoth replied to that saying, "And only $15,000 to end somebody? That's a bargain basement hitman. Even if there was a contract, anyone who takes it is probably too incompetent to get the job done." Our next story is green card marriage scam that got very bad. Met a woman on a dating app and fell in love. She claimed she didn't need a green card. But later, it turned out her initial immigration plan fell through and she has to get married if we are to keep dating. While initially entertaining this, as I was very much in love, I eventually declined, which caused a dramatic shouting on her side and a breakup. I've not seen the woman since, except once on the street by accident. 3 months later, I got arrested with false accusations of assault that supposedly happened while we were dating. Needless to say, I was never violent to her physically or verbally. I have no prior history of violence or any arrests. There's an immigration status called U visa, in which a person claiming to be a victim of crime in the US can gain legal status even if they overstayed their original visa, as long as there's a police investigation and they're helping the police. I am assuming that, or perhaps a T visa, is the goal. It provides work authorization and protection from deportation during the visa process. I actually think this is a good and important tool, but sadly it's being fraudulently used against me. I think such a scam is rare, as it requires giving false statements to the police and fabricating evidence, but it definitely happens. I can easily disprove the fabricated evidence, but no one will even look at it until or if there is a trial. I had no idea this could happen and thought not going forward with the marriage would be enough to protect myself. Edit, I'm being represented by a criminal defense lawyer who I hired immediately. You know, the scam aside, can I just point out, I just feel bad for OP. Imagine feeling like you finally met somebody and you're really vibing with them and you're like, this person is awesome and they seem to like me so much. Only to realize you're that cliche television plot line in that person's life on their way to try to get a green card. I just can't imagine how devastating that must feel. A user named Cornloaf left a comment saying, I have a good friend that overstayed her student visa in the US. She fell in love and was on the path to potentially correcting her status and possibly getting married. It turns out the man was mentally unstable, and a quick search shows his entire family were criminals. After several months together, he attacked her and tried to strangle her to her end. He was arrested and charged with several felonies. The victim's advocate in her county told her to apply for the U visa with lots of promises on how it could help her on her road to proper immigration. She loves the US and wants to stay. She asked me to help her research it, and then the dude made bail and they actually put her in a safe house because he was considered a threat. The U visa has a limited amount given each year. 10,000 visas are issued annually. There are 315,000 still pending, so it could take more than 30 years, during which she would not be protected. She's decided to self-deport. The OP responded, "Thank you for the information. I researched and found out that this protects from deportation and gives a work permit. I don't think she's planning to go through all the way with the U visa." Our next story is, father-in-law got a call that he won $82,000. Hey all, I am fully convinced that my father-in-law, 70 years old, is being targeted and set up for a scam. It's been a roller coaster of 2 days trying to make him realize what's going on. I was at work yesterday and my father-in-law calls me, but I was busy and couldn't answer. 1 minute later, he sends a text saying that he just won $72,000. He will play some small lotto games at a bar or restaurant sometimes, so I immediately think this is the source. Nope. I call him back and he tells me that some lady from California called him and told him that he just won $72,000 and they're going to come to his house with flowers, balloons, a check, and a photographer. They will then go to the bank with him to deposit the check so the bank doesn't mark the transaction as fraudulent. Yeah, sure. He's excited, as most would initially be. He thought my wife and I entered him into a drawing or something while vacationing in California last year. Nope. As I'm on the phone with him, I'm trying to get all the possible information I can from him. He can't remember or was never told the organization, of course. I do get a name and number from him. After telling him not to give any piece of information moving forward, I call the number provided. After being screened through Google, I get an answer. She introduces herself as the same person that my father-in-law just spoke to. I gave her my first name and let her know that I'm calling up on his behalf to get some more information. She says, "Let me check my system," and hangs up. I call back, get screened, No answer. I can see where this is going. Fast forward to today, the same lady calls him back to tell him that he cannot receive the prize because he broke their confidentiality policy when he told me about the winnings and I called. Hilarious, right? This lady has also been very adamant that he tells no one about this, for his safety of course. He tells this woman that his daughter and sister-in-law, me, look out for him, and I called as I suspected that this was a scam. She then says that she'll submit everything for review. 3 hours later, he calls me back to tell me that they've accepted his apology and he's still able for his prize money. Apparently, they're taking out all of the taxes first, and he was forwarded to an IRS agent that informed him that he actually won $82,000 and the IRS is taking 20%, so his check will be $65,600. After that, he was transferred to an IRS detective to assure him that this is not a scam. I let him know that in no way does this random organization that doesn't announce themselves have a direct line into the IRS for a transfer. And we all know the US government is not just shelling out tens of thousands of dollars to some random 70-year-old man. Scary part is he uses a bank account in my wife's name, not our main bank or finances. But I can only imagine what can happen if they get the bank info, social security numbers, who knows? I know this isn't real, but I can use some real help. Does anyone have similar stories or anything to share that I can show or read to him? I need to break through this man's thick skull, and apparently our logic isn't doing the trick. Thank you for your help. I don't know, OP. He got transferred to an IRS agent and then an IRS detective. Maybe OP's trying to con them out of the $65,600 themselves. Seriously though, if I'm in OP's shoes, I'm just like pelting the dad repeatedly with the phrase, "It's not real, it's not real, it's a scam, they're trying to take your info, do not give anything to them for the love of God." Nobody from the IRS is going to call you up and say, "Hey, we're giving you $65,600. Give us your social security number." Later on, in the comments, the OP left a comment saying, "Thanks everyone for all the help and advice. I predicted the future, and it slowly helped. Yesterday was a turning point when he shared some documents they sent him, and I picked them apart. Also, the threat of cutting ties with the bank account really set in. Was a frustrating run, and would have never have thought I needed to scold my father-in-law like he's 5 years old, but I'm hoping it's finally over. Feel so bad for the individuals that fall for this crap. Scary and sad. Be diligent." Our next story is House Arrest Ankle Monitor Scam. So today, my boyfriend's mom almost fell for a phishing attempt by clicking a link in a fake Amazon email that took her to a login page. She luckily didn't enter anything, and it was a close call. I was telling my own mom about it, and I mentioned how sometimes I get worried something like that could happen to her or my dad, since some of these scams are very sophisticated now. She drops the bomb that she and my stepdad were scammed out of $1,000 a few months ago, but they were too ashamed to tell me. A couple of months ago, my stepbrother was arrested on a warrant. He was in jail for a few days. My mom received a phone call around this time from someone claiming that they were with the county court where the arrest took place, and that my mom was listed as an emergency contact for my stepbrother. She told me the man was very well-spoken and sounded legit. He proceeds to explain that my stepbrother is going to be released on probation and put on house arrest, and that they were requesting payment for the ankle monitor. The man said after the $1,000 is paid, he will send the details on when my mom and stepdad can pick up the ankle monitor on a specific date and time at the courthouse. My mom sent the money to this man's PayPal account. A couple of days go by and they hear nothing back from this man on the details of when to pick up the ankle monitor. They try to call back, only to find out that the phone number had been disconnected or her number was blocked. That's when my mom and stepdad realized it was a scam. I can only assume the scammer just combed through public records. They probably saw the recent arrest record for my stepbrother and then found my mom's information as a potential family member and made the connection and concocted this story. Definitely the first time I've encountered this type of impersonation as a county court official. My mom wasn't able to retrieve the money back from PayPal, unfortunately. I felt absolutely horrible that this happened to her, and if she would have told me what was happening at the time, I could have stopped it. So I've definitely heard nothing quite like this one before, but I definitely understand how the scam would have come about. In a lot of states, arrest records are very public, and unfortunately, in a lot of states, people are very findable online. Like, for example, there's a number of states in the United States where when you register to vote, your home address, your phone number, in some states, your email address that you write down, all become public record that you cannot remove or hide unless you have very specific circumstances like a stalker or a restraining order kind of thing that proves worthy to remove it. So at that point, if this took place in one of those states, assuming that they are registered to vote, it becomes stupidly easy to track them down. A user named Hamon Rai left a comment saying, "I feel like a lot of scams could be avoided if people had broader knowledge about how things work, even if they think those things will not happen to them. And I don't mean any disrespect to your parents, just in general. In the scam you describe, a huge red flag would be the courts or the police do not give out the ankle monitors to relatives. They attach it themselves, so they know for sure who it is attached to. Also, don't know their local jail, but at most jails in the US, inmates can make phone calls. It seems like they would have or should have spoken to the stepbrother, but the same general concept applies to knowing how courts and arrests work. Like that cops do not call you to tell you that they have an arrest warrant for you, but you can make it go away by giving them money. Or that Customs or Border Patrol does not call you to ask if a package addressed to you is full of drugs. Anyway, I'm sorry your folks got ripped off. At least it was a smaller amount in the grand scheme of things. $1,000 is a lot for sure, but so many folks get taken for more. I know someone personally who lost about $55,000. Our next story is Graveyard Scammer. I just encountered the craziest scammer and need to discuss to see if anyone has had a similar experience. My sister and I were visiting our mom's grave, and we were having a moment, both crying and sharing memories, when this car pulls up by us. Cemetery is outside, and this woman gets out and asks us who we're visiting. We've had nice experiences with our people near the grave before, so I didn't think much of it at first, and shared that it was our mom. The lady then says that her mom died 3 days ago, and she hugs my sister and kisses her on the cheek. Thinking it's a touching moment, I was wiping my tears away and was glad to have this. Then she goes on to say that her sister is in the hospital with diabetes, and her insurance only paid 30 of the 60 of the cost of insulin, and she needs $30. At first, my thought was, well, I would love to help, but I don't have cash on me and I don't want to give any bank info out. Then it hit me as she pulled out some scam insurance card that looked like she just printed it out as it was taped together. Keep in mind, there's still tears coming from my sister and I from us crying earlier. Then she goes on to say the whole, well, God would want you to help, all that, and that's where she lost me. Oh, and the fact that I saw the car that she got out of had someone driving her. We stood in silence for 60 seconds, it felt. Then I just made up some excuse like, sorry, we're having a tender moment. We go back to sitting down and we're like, what the heck was that? So then we see her drive to every other person visiting a loved one to ask the same question. Just such a new level of scamming. We were so taken aback. Has anyone else experienced this? So insane to us and just so wrong. Tried calling the cemetery hotline, but they were closed for the holiday, but just crazy. Now, somebody calling up and saying that I have a bounty on your head for $15,000, pay me off or your head's coming off. I feel like that's a pretty wild and out there one. Somebody in a physical location going around begging other people, even in a scammy way, for up to $30. Sadly, a lot more believable, although extremely scummy, in a cemetery trying to prey on people's emotions. I mean, I bet that lady going around to every other person had the exact same kind of relative that recently passed away. Oh, it was your brother? My brother recently passed away. My sister's in the hospital, blah, blah, blah. You know, the kind of person that makes you hope karma is real so it can come back to bite her. A user named Cheese Manipulator left a comment saying, I know when I can't afford the deductible on medication, the first place I go to is the cemetery in my car and hit up random mourners. Somehow, they can afford to drive a car around all day, but don't have $30 for insulin. God would want you to help. God would want you to face justice. Our next story is, I'm at a loss in stopping this romance scam. My grandmother is a beautiful person. She really is. But she unfortunately finds herself in too deep with a romance scammer. I've tried everything I can think of. I'm hoping this community has some ideas that I haven't considered. The story is textbook. She encountered him in an online word game. He claims to be in his late 60s working on an oil rig. He claims to be a devout Christian, and they talk about the Bible together. He supposedly has a teenage child living in a residential school that my grandmother is also in contact with. It's been going on for nearly a year. When I learned this was happening, I built a case that I thought left no room for doubt. I gave a master class on the common stories scammers use, how they use technology to support their scams, everything. I broke it down to a level that I thought was surely understandable. And to close the door finally, I proved that every single one of his pictures was stolen. I was so sure that she was guaranteed to see the truth. It didn't work. This guy has convinced her that the stolen pictures are the product of some fantasy algorithm that has somehow spread his valid pictures across the internet. And in a chess move I didn't anticipate, he's now convinced her that there's legal reasons she can no longer share details about him with us. My grandmother is a very private person and very competent for her age. We don't know anything about money exchanges here. She has access to a lot of cash, so we assume that based on the length of this relationship that she's probably given him something. I'm out of ideas. The family thinks that at this point we need to let it go and just be there for her when it falls apart, but I'm having a hard time with that. I hate the idea of just abandoning her to the scam. I would love any ideas or advice, even if that advice is to let it go. Unfortunately, from looking into the scam subreddit, this is actually a surprisingly common thing. The real problem is, if she's cognitively all there, there's not really much OP can do. I mean, she has free will, and she's capable of making that decision, albeit evidently probably the wrong one. A user named Your Username Forever left a comment saying, "One thing that may not work but is worth a shot is leaning on TV material. Dr. Phil has some episodes on catfishing and romance scams. People sometimes react better to something that's on TV rather than told by a grandkid. Some grandparents may think a young kid has no authority to teach them anything. Not saying that's the case, maybe your grandma loves you and respects you, but there's an underlying factor of, I'm more experienced than you in life, that shields her in. Good luck to you, and remember nobody can help you get your money back. Anyone reaching out to you privately is a scammer." The OP responded, "The TV angle is a good one. I tried introducing her to social catfish, but it didn't do much, even though the story they featured was basically identical. Maybe I'll look and see if her favorite network news has covered it. She listens to them with complete faith. What's really unusual is she actually has the most active social life out of anyone I know. She has fun plans several times a week and so many friends, but maybe she's missing that deeper connection." This original post is from September 2nd, 2023. OP then went on to post an update over a year later in October 2024. Long overdue update on my grandma's romance scammer. I wanted to make sure it was really over before updating. We had several times that we thought we got through to her, but that ended up not being the case. Everything came to a head when my grandmother was flagged by her bank for multiple international wire transfers. The bank alerted a senior advocate who apparently works closely with my small hometown PD. I had no idea a resource like this existed, or I would have jumped on it sooner. The advocate reached out to my uncle and explained the situation. He immediately drove to the hometown PD and talked to an officer that knows our family. He showed the officer all of the evidence we gathered as a family. I admit, I didn't expect the police would go out of their way to help like this, but I guess that's a small town perk. An officer, a sergeant, the advocate, and my uncle all went to my grandmother's house and talked to her for hours. They told her that they knew this guy. A lie, but one that I'm grateful for, and they listened to her cry and made sure that she knew this wasn't her fault. What was really meaningful for her was the presence of multiple cops with rank. A user on my initial post mentioned that she might listen to authority. You were right. Now her life is so different. She's visiting the senior center and making friends, and is even looking at a condo in a senior community. I am so grateful for the resources our PD put into this. My learning and advice for anyone else in this situation: call your local police department. They just might surprise you. But unfortunately, over a year and a half later, on January 4th, 2026, the OP made a second update post. A second update on my grandmother's romance scam. At the time of my last update, we felt that my grandmother had really seen the light after the involvement of her bank, the police, and APS. Unfortunately, it turns out that she just got better at hiding things. My grandmother is 85, incredibly active, incredibly social, and in great health. She was married to my grandfather for nearly 50 years before his passing a bit over a decade ago. She never seemed to be in a crisis or vulnerable state. She always had fun plans nearly every day, was active in her church community, and had lots of hobbies. All this just to say that it wasn't obvious. The background of the scam can be found in the previous posts. When this scammer first got their hooks in her, my grandmother had a beautiful home in a beautiful town, was the co-trustee of a family trust with interest and dividend income rolling in, and enough savings to really enjoy the last chapter of her life. Many would dream of being set up for comfort like she was. She sold her house less than a year ago and moved into a nice apartment. No huge flags, as she had been talking about downsizing since my grandfather's death. Everything seemed fine. Then, she took a large withdrawal from the family trust in secret, which triggered notifications to other co-trustees. The third-party trust manager removed her access to the funds when she explained that the withdrawal was to pay for a helicopter so her oil rig boyfriend could come see her. It's now been revealed that every last cent from the sale of her house had already been sent to the scammer. The entirety of her personal savings are gone. She's in credit card and IRS debt. Her rent is overdue. Her checking account is overdrafted. She has less than $0. In total, we have documentation of her sending $800,000 to the scam. $800,000. All I can really say, in hopes of maybe helping someone else, is that you can never trust that it's over. Take the action that feels nuclear while there's still something left to save. Honestly, it's like the nightmare update to have to read. I mean, everything is gone. 85 years old. I mean, I definitely approve of taking the nuclear action or option, but what is that? Try to seek a lawyer to prove her incompetent for this stuff? I mean, like OP said, in every other way, in every other field, she seems completely competent and doing really well for an 85-year-old woman. What would be that nuclear action? A user named I Have Boxer Dogs left a comment saying, "The go nuclear advice is good. People are afraid of insulting their family. It's better than watching all of their money and security disappear." If at some point OP makes another update, I'll keep an eye out for it. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear some other crazy scam stories, why not check out that video on the left? Or if you missed my latest video, why not check out that video on the right? That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.